Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtatarshri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhayacharna Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for coming to our Sunday Feast program. Today, actually I was going to say that it's really nice to see for the past few weeks the numbers pick up, isn't it? We've been cooped up for the last 2 years by circumstances, but now it's really nice to see all the devotees, the congregation, guests coming back to the temple. Last Friday we celebrated Shri Gaur Purnima. Was anyone here for that? Yes? I think I saw you as well. You were there. And someone told me that we had something like 900 people coming through the doors of the temple that evening, like throughout the period of like that late afternoon, that evening period. 900 people, which is phenomenal. Someone was apparently counting. 900 people. It's a big effort. So we had a really nice abhishek. The deities of Shri Gaur Nitai were bathed in milk and yogurt and honey and all these delicious fruit juices. And then the devotees got to partake in that Mahaprasad, the Charanamrit. And then yesterday, Saturday, I was fortunate to be invited to a program in the southwest of Sydney, Glenfield, I think it was, a bit far away, like towards Campbelltown. And there, Venuvadak Prabhu, one of the esteemed members of our community, he's actually running some whole programs there. So they were celebrating their Gaur Purnima festival yesterday. So then I attended that. And then today I was told to give a class on none other than Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya. So for me this year it's been a 3-day festival. celebrating Gaur Purnima. So I'll just read a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Every time we give classes, we like to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and we like to speak from them. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is actually written in Bengali, the Bengali language. So I'll just recite a verse. This is from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 7, text number 37. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Tomara dui hastabadda nama ganane jalapatra bahirvasa vahibe kemone. Translation. Since your two hands will always be engaged in chanting and counting the holy names, how will you be able to carry the water pot and external garments? So I'll give you the context. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna, we'll talk about him, has taken sannyas. He's taken to the renounced road of life, and he's decided to now, because a sannyasi is supposed to be an itinerant preacher. What that means is that they shouldn't stay in one place. They're given that sanction to stay in one place during the Chaturmas period. You've heard of the Chaturmas period? At least in the northern hemisphere, the 4 months of the rainy season. So that's when the sannyasis base themselves in a particular place. So obviously it wasn't that part of the year. So Mahaprabhu has just taken sannyas and he wants to travel to South India. And he's in Bengal right now. And his associates, particularly Nityananda Prabhu. So if you see this altar here on the left side, you have two deities there. The one on the right is Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And the one on the left is his brother, Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Balaram Hoilo Nitai. So it's mentioned that in Krishna Lila, you have Krishna and Balaram. Balaram is Krishna's brother. In Chaitanya Lila, Krishna comes as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and his brother Balaram comes as Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu here is telling Sri Caitanya, okay, you've taken sannyas, you're going to leave us, you're going to travel to South India. Don't leave us, at least allow some of us to go with you. That's why he's saying, since your two hands will always be engaged in chanting and counting the holy names, wherever he went, he will always chant Hare Krishna. How will you be able to carry the water pot and external garments, right? The sannyasis, they hold a kamandalu, like a pot. Who's going to hold that for you? If your two hands you're going to use to chant Hare Krishna. So therefore, don't leave by yourself. Take someone with you. Take me with you. So I'll just read a bit of the purport that Srila Prabhupada writes. From this verse, it is clear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting the holy names a fixed number of times daily. The Goswamis used to follow in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and Haridas Thakur also followed this principle. Concerning the Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srinivas Acharya confirms Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi. In addition to other duties, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu introduced the system of chanting the holy name of the Lord a fixed number of times daily, as confirmed in the verse Tomara Dui Hasta Baddha Nama Ganane. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to count on his fingers. So, if you accidentally lose your bead bag, you can't chant on your fingers. As a contingency. While one hand was engaged in chanting, the other hand kept the number of rounds. Right? So there's a special way of chanting. Obviously, in this age, we're really distracted. So we lose focus, we lose attention really quickly. So let's just chant on the Tulsi Mala, on the chanting beads. Therefore, devotees in the line of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu must chant at least 16 rounds daily. Now here's something interesting. And this is the number prescribed by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Haridas Thakur daily chanted 300,000 names of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada is saying 16 rounds is about 28,000 names of Krishna. So those of you who are chanting 16 rounds, which is the magic number, which Srila Prabhupada prescribed. So if you want to take initiation, take Diksha, then the minimum number of rounds you should chant is 16. So like the Maha Mantra has 16 names of God, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, that's 8. And then Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that's another 8. So one Maha Mantra has 8 names of Krishna and Radharani, Hare. And then you multiply that by 108, which is the number of beads in one, Tulsi Mala, Japa Mala. And then 16, multiply that by 16. So you'll come to a number which is close to 28,000. I think Prabhu's just done the calculation there. There is no need to imitate Haridas Thakur or other Goswamis, but chanting the holy name a fixed number of times daily is essential for every devotee. So let's speak something a little bit about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're not just going to speak just about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, because the topic I was told to speak about is the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Who has heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here? Can you please put up your hand? Yes? Okay. Most of us. 60-70%. Yes, I want to say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as a Gupta avatar. We've all heard the word avatar. Avatar means one who descends, right, from the spiritual world. But Mahaprabhu is known as Gupta avatar. Gupta means hidden. Not easily understood, not easily known, not easily identified. One of the ways that you can understand who is an avatar of Krishna is by studying the Shastras, by studying the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and the Puranas like that. There are mentions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but not directly. It says things like he'll come dressed in bright orange, he'll have a golden complexion, his tongue will always be vibrating the sound of the holy name. Did I say he'll take sannyas? He'll come with his associates, and they won't be killing anyone. Their weapons will be chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But unless we have the guidance of devotees who are coming in the line of Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada, like our disciplic succession that you can see. This is the most recent disciplic succession. These 5 or 6 frames that you see here at the front. So they have identified that indeed Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But why is he Gupta? Why is he hidden? You see, unlike other incarnations of Krishna, who are really publicized, like let's say Lord Nrsimha Dev, Matsya Avatar, the fish incarnation. Recently in Srimad Bhagavatam classes we were talking about Varaha, the boar incarnation, which fought with Hiranyaksha. And so many others. Ramachandra, how can we forget Lord Ramachandra? Right? So here Krishna is coming as Krishna himself. To do what? 3 things. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavam yoge yoge. So in the Bhagavad Gita it's mentioned that every avatar of Krishna comes to do 3 main things: to protect the devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish the principles of Dharma, to reestablish the principles of religion. And they come as Krishna. They come as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they demand worship, they demand respect, they demand that we follow the injunctions which they set. But the reason why Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is hidden is because this particular avatar he's actually coming as his own devotee. Now that's something really special. Krishna is coming as his own devotee. He's not coming as Krishna himself. And generally speaking, devotees of Krishna, it's like pure devotees of Krishna, they're devoid of the desire for name, fame, popularity, praise, distinction, all these things. So if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll come across instances where some of his close associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they know that he's Krishna. They know. And sometimes they'll even glorify him. You are Vishnu, you are Krishna. And whenever he heard that, he would block his ears. Don't tell me that I'm Krishna. Don't tell me that I'm Vishnu. I don't want to know that, because I'm coming not as Krishna, even though he is Krishna. I'm coming as my devotee. Why? To teach us how to practice bhakti. To teach us how to follow the instructions which are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And one other technical point is this. Actually, technically speaking, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not an avatar of Krishna. He is Krishna himself. That's a technicality that we have to understand to really appreciate Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. You see, it's mentioned, Diparchireva hi dashantaram abhyupetya dipayate vivridahetu samana dharma yastadrageva hi vishnuttaya vibhati govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahma is telling that just as you have one candle and you use that candle to light another candle, right? And then you may use that to light another candle, like that. So all the candles are the same, but still there's an original candle. Right? They all have the same luminosity when they're lit, but still there's a distinction. There's still one original candle which lit all the other candles. So that original candle is Krishna. All the other candles are like the different avatars of Krishna. And by the way, it's mentioned in the scriptures, there are as many avatars of Krishna as there are waves in the ocean. Now, I was flying over to New Zealand some years back to get initiated, and I actually looked down at the ocean, and I could see just waves coming and going. Not possible to count the waves. Or like the grains of sand in all the beaches of the world. It's not possible. So Krishna is like that. So my point is that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not one of the candles which are lit by the original candle. He, along with Krishna, is the original candle as well. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay? Now, we're talking about the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I came across an interesting definition for mercy. Try to follow this. Mercy is compassion and forgiveness which is shown to someone who is under your care, and such a person is actually liable to be punished because they've done something wrong. And even though you have the full authority to punish them because they've done something wrong, still you don't do that. You don't punish them. You show compassion, you show forgiveness. Does that make sense? Right? That means not anyone can show mercy. You have to be qualified to be able to show mercy. For example, a parent can show mercy to their children, right? Because they are maintaining their children. The children are not independent. If the child does something wrong, it is within the full capacity and the right of the parent to correct the child. But even though the child has done something terribly wrong and they're liable to be punished, if the parent decides not to punish the child, that is an act of mercy, at least according to this definition. So your boss at work can show mercy to the employer, to the employee, right? A teacher can show mercy to the student. So my point is that it's not arbitrary. Anyone cannot just show mercy to anyone. You have to have some degree of qualification. So Krishna or Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has the full prerogative, has the full authority to show mercy to all of us. Why? Because we are fully dependent on Krishna. We are fully dependent on Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. We are existing because he is existing. Our existence is dependent on his existence. Chaitanas Chaitananam, I forgot the verse. Nitya Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitanam, Eko Baud. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Eko Jo Bahunam Vidadati Kaman. So this verse is saying that Krishna is the original eternal and we are all the tiny eternals. Krishna is the original conscious living entity and we are all the tiny, minute conscious living entities. So if we do something wrong, which we sort of have, right? It's like a teenager, he has some argument with the parents, And then he's like, I'm going out of here. I don't want to see you. So who's at fault here? Hey, parents may be at fault, but still, if the parent is proper, at heart, the parent has good intentions toward the child. The child, because of maybe some ego or something like that, they may run away from home. So we may have had something like that with Krishna. So actually, see, we are spiritual living entities. We're not this body, we're not our mind. We are completely spiritual. So our natural habitat, the natural habitat of the soul, is in Vaikuntha, is in the spiritual realm with Krishna, in Golok Vrindavan. So why are we here and not there? Right? So that's the thing. I don't want to get into it too much because it's a side point. But the thing is, because we are here, we are dependent completely on the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to return back. But we have to deserve that. That's the thing. And Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is described. Here's something interesting as well. If you're in a society with a really healthy population, let's say 100% of the people are healthy, and there's a doctor there, will that doctor be appreciated in a really healthy society? Not so much. It's only when someone gets sick that the doctor is appreciated. Or let's say it's daytime. Sometimes during the daytime you can still see the moon. Can you appreciate the moon during the daytime? No. Only at nighttime can you appreciate the moon. So similarly, we have the perfect chance. We have the perfect opportunity to appreciate the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, because right now we are in Kali Yuga, which is said to be a very dark age, where generally people are not interested in spiritual life. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Manda Sumanda Yo Mata Bhagya, right? So people are dull-headed, we're just interested in fulfilling our material desires. All these things are mentioned. So it's compared, Kali Yuga is compared to be a very dark age. So when it's very dark, then we can appreciate the moonshine in the sky. So Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is like that bright sunlight, that bright moonshine. And we have the facility and the ability to appreciate the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in this very dense, dark age of Kali Yuga. So that's the mercy aspect. So I've just noted down some points. One of them, Srila Prabhupada was actually talking about in the purport about the holy name. About the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and how we can appreciate that. Of course, it's impossible to understand the full nature of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. It's mentioned, Anantashesh. Sometimes you'll see Lord Vishnu, he's resting on a bed of a snake. He's a snake, right? That's actually an expansion of Balaram. It's an avatar of Balaram. Or if you see a picture of Lord Nrsimha, after he's ripped apart Hiranyakashipu, you'll see he's really ferocious, and behind him there'll be like Anantanag. Now it's mentioned this Anantanag has like practically unlimited number of heads, and for a countless period of time he's been extolling the glories of Krishna, and still he can't come to the end of that. So it's unlimited. So we can't come to the end, we cannot comprehend the full mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, but in about half an hour we'll try to just list some points, at least that came to my knowledge. So first thing is, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is, the process which is given us is completely non-discriminatory. That's a really important point, especially in today's society. There's no material impediment for anyone to practice Krishna consciousness. I'll give you an example. I came across an article some years back, and it was some school in some village in India, and this particular school had children who were autistic. They had some sort of disabilities. They were deaf, or they were dumb, they could not speak, like that. So devotees actually came to the school, and they still taught these children who could not speak how to chant Hare Krishna. How is that possible? Because you see, bhakti is an affair of the heart. Srila Prabhupada says bhakti is all about relationships, it's all about the heart. So it's not so much about your external skills, your talents, your abilities. It's about your consciousness. So the way that they were taught to chant Hare Krishna was like this. They had different mudras or hand gestures for Hare Krishna and Rama. I can't remember exactly what they were, but Hare was something like, like this mudra. Krishna was like the flute. And Rama, although Rama can refer to Balaram or Krishna, Rama can also refer to Lord Ramachandra. So they had like an arrow. Right? So they would be like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, yeah? Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that is how these children were chanting Hare Krishna Japa. I was blown away by that. So, and that's what they were doing. They were chanting something like 3 or 4 rounds daily. Like that. The Chaitanya Charitamrita gives a story of Subhuti Roy. This is an interesting story which talks about how, you see, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the Varnashram system, the caste system in India had really, really degraded. Actually, Krishna says that he's the founder and the establisher of this caste system. And it should be dependent on guna and karma. It should be dependent on your qualities and your activities. Depending on your qualities and your activities, that determines whether you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. But these, say, caste Brahmanas or whatever, they had said that no, it depends on your birth. Only if you're born in a Brahman family are you a Brahman. Only if you're born in a Kshatriya family are you a Kshatriya, like that. Actually, it's not dependent on your birth. But it had degraded to this level. So it talks about the story of Subhuti Roy, he wasn't really a Vaishnava, but when he was younger, he got the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he grew up to become the king of Bengal, the king of Gaudadesh. Right? Now, while he was the king and he was administrating the kingdom, he had a servant. He was a Mohammedan servant. His name was, I think, Hussain Shah. And he treated him, Subhuti Roy treated this servant just as his son. Right? Had a really close relationship, very affectionate relationship. But we were talking about punishment and showing mercy just before. So one time, what happened is that this particular servant of Subhuti Roy actually did something terribly, terribly wrong. He really let down Subhuti Roy. So part of the punishment which he gave to him at that time was that he gave him some 1 or 2 whips on his back. And you may think that this Hussain, this servant, felt really bad. But he didn't feel bad at all. He felt that he deserved it. And he felt that Subhuti Roy was still his well-wisher. And he had, treated him in the proper way to reform his whatever thing that he did. So there was nothing between them. It was still good. Now, as happens throughout the passage of time, Subhuti Roy, he was no longer the king of Bengal. And this servant, he actually became the king. And one day, his queen, so this Hussain Shah, his queen happened to see on his back whip marks, these lash marks. And when she saw them, she got really upset. And she asked, "How have these come upon you?" And he said, "You see, when I was younger, I was the servant of this particular person called Subhuti Roy, and he was just like my father, and he used to take care of me, and it's okay. He was just teaching me. He was just teaching me a lesson in a very affectionate way." So his queen became angry. "How can anyone lay their hands on you?" "Kill this Subhuti Roy," she said. And Subhuti Roy and this Hussain Shah was in a dilemma. So how can I? He was my maintainer. He's my protector. It's because of him I'm now the king of Gaudadesh. I'm now the king of Bengal. How can I go and kill him? So he argued with his wife, the queen, and he said, look, I'm not going to kill him. He said, at least you should convert him. So I was mentioning about how the caste system had degraded back then. So according to the belief, if you had a water pot that belonged to a Mohammedan, and you just got some water from that water pot, and you sprinkled it on the body of a Hindu, it was considered that the Hindu had now been converted to the other religion. That was the degraded belief that had happened at that point in time. At least Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the Bengal area. So Subudhi Rai, so Saint said, okay, so that's what I'll do. I won't kill him, but I'll convert him. And then he went and he sprinkled these drops of water on Subudhi Roy, and Subudhi Roy thought, no, I've changed now. I'm no longer a Brahmana. I'm no longer a Hindu. What to do? And he went along to he sought the guidance of all these smarta Brahmanas. And they were giving him different ways that he could reform himself. And one of the ways to reform yourself, if you had some water splashed on you from such a water pot, was that, okay, you actually have to boil ghee, boiling hot ghee. You have to drink it because ghee is very pure, right? So if you drink it, the hot boiling ghee, you'll get purified. Now, is it possible to drink boiling hot ghee? It's not possible. So this is the type of advice that he was getting. Thankfully, he met Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, forget this nonsense. Just chant Hare Krishna. Go to Vrindavan and just chant Hare Krishna. And whatever sinful actions you've done in the past, they'll all be eradicated. That's what he did. He followed Mahaprabhu's instructions. He went to Vrindavan. And he dedicated his life to the attentive chanting and hearing of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And he became a very great Vaishnava. So I gave the example of these children, these autistic children, and Subudhi Roy. So I mean to say that we should not be discouraged in any way. We all have an equal opportunity regardless of our gender, regardless of our education, regardless of our intelligence, whatever it may be. We all have an equal opportunity to practice Hare Krishna, to chant Hare Krishna, to advance in spiritual life. Krishna is known as Bhava Grahi Janardana. That means that he doesn't take into account so much what you do him, like the results that you give to him, but it's the mood, it's the intention which is pleasing Krishna so much. Because that's why he says in the Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakta Prayachiti. And he says, you can give me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or some water, and I will accept it. Now, is Krishna accepting your leaf, flower, fruit, or water? Is he actually accepting that? You're saying no. What is he accepting? Yeah, that's what he says. Bhakti Uparatam, he says. Krishna is the richest person. His consort is Shri, Goddess Lakshmi, Srimati Radharani. He doesn't need so much our patram, pushram, phalams and toyams. He's looking for the love. And that's what bhakti is. Of course, yes, Krishna will accept all these material things as well. And that's how we can use them in Krishna's service. But actually, the principal point is that whatever material facilities we offer or use in Krishna's service, it must be done in proper Krishna consciousness with the proper loving, devotional attitude. That's the first point. The second point of how Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is showing his mercy is that he's giving us the most easiest process of deliverance. We know that there's different yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Now Srimad Bhagavatam actually lists the different type of activities that are recommended for people in these different ages. In Satya Yuga, where it's mentioned people's lifespans were 100,000 years, practically everyone was a Paramhamsa. Everyone was in the mode of goodness. They were in Sattva Gun. For such people, the prescribed process was meditation. Now it seems easy, meditation, but they were doing it for 60,000 years. Because their lifespans were so vast. Now, in the third chapter, third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains the nature of this meditation. You've all seen a picture of Vishnu, right? One of the things which he is holding in his four hands is the Sudarshan Chakra, right? You all know the Sudarshan Chakra. This Sudarshan Chakra has 1,000 spokes, which are like the things going into the center, has 1,000 spokes. Now it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that when these people who are practicing this meditation, Satyuga, their meditation is so intense, so precise, because of the level of their consciousness and their purity, they are able to meditate on each and every one of these 1,000 spokes. So that is the level of concentration and meditation that they used to do. So it's not prescribed for us in this day and age where our minds are so distracted. Then we have fire yagyas, right? Homas, fire yagyas. This is the prescribed way of attaining perfection in spiritual life in the Treta Yuga. We all know in Mahabharata, when Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice. To perform such a big fire yagya, you need a lot of accoutrements, you need a lot of things, you need a lot of ghee, you need a lot of grains, you need a lot of food. And he sent the Pandavas to different directions. And that's why one of the names for Arjuna is Dhananjaya. Right? Because he actually went and he fought many kingdoms and he secured vast amounts of dhana, vast amounts of wealth, which Yudhishthir Maharaj used to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. These sacrifices were so big. You know the Yagya Kunda, where the fire is lit? They were so big that on one edge of the Yagya Kunda, up to 10,000 brahmanas would sit, throwing grains into the fire. We can't imagine these things. But that was the Yuga Dharma in Treta Yuga. Then we see in Dwapar Yuga, which was the previous, just to the present Kali Yuga, the process of deity worship is there, worshipping the deity. That is also, it can be a bit difficult. There's a lot of rules and regulations you have to follow. You have to cook a certain type of food. You have to offer it at the right time. Krishna wakes up early in the morning at 4 o'clock. That means if you're a pujari, if you're a priest, you have to make sure that you wake up before 4 o'clock so you can prepare all the things, so that Krishna will wake up on time. And then 4:30 we have the first arti of the day, Mangal Arti. So like this, Sri Radha Gopinath, which were installed by Srila Prabhupada in 1972, I believe it was, in Sydney, they've been daily, 365 days a year, for the last more than 50 years now, 6 artis every single day. And they are fed 6 times a day as well. Food cooked in ghee, puris, pakoras, halwa. When Sri Radha Gopinath wake up every single day, they take a big plate of milk sweets, barfis, rasgullas, sweet rice, sandesh. Krishna doesn't just wake up for anyone. You have to feed him first. Some nice sweets, some nice milk sweets. Then he'll wake up, he'll smile. Of course, Krishna is always smiling. And he'll give his darshan to everyone. So it's difficult. But Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the easiest process, which is chanting the holy name. And one other thing about the holy name of Krishna, the Shastras say, the scriptures say, that if you chant 1,000 names of Vishnu, okay, that is equal to 1 name of Lord Ram. 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu is equal to 1 name of Lord Ram. 3 names of Lord Ram is equal to 1 name of Krishna. Does that make sense so far? That means 1 name of Krishna is equal to 3,000 names of Lord Vishnu. You have to chant the Vishnu Sahasranam 3 times to get the benefit. of chanting just one name of Krishna. Now that's not all. The name of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga, is equal to, in spiritual benefit, 1,000 names of Krishna. So if you chant Krishna's name 1,000 times, that's the equivalent of chanting just one Gauranga. So everyone, please chant, Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. It's very easy. So that's about the holy name of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, one other thing is, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu does not kill as an avatar. You see, I mentioned the point, Paritranaya sadhunam, vinayashaya cha dushkritam. Even when Krishna came, he was wiping out the miscreants in large-scale numbers. Just like Jarasandha's armies, when Jarasandha would come and he would siege the city of Mathura, he would bring something like 16, 17 times a vast number of soldiers. And Krishna and Balaram would just kill them. Other avatars of Krishna, Lord Nrsimha Dev, Parshuram, who wiped out the whole Kshatriya race 21 times. So that's part of Krishna's administration of the material world as well. But Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he doesn't kill. One of the names of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is Gaura Hari. So, sometimes when we're glorifying Lord Nrsimha, we call him Nara Hari. So Hari means also lion. It means Vishnu, but Hari also means lion. So Nara Hari means that personality of Godhead who's half Nara, who's half human, and half lion. So Gaura Hari, Gaura means golden, Hari means lion. So Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is compared to be like a golden lion. So what is this whole analogy of lion? Well, that's mentioned that if, I haven't seen, but apparently, at least according to the acharyas, if there's a battle between an elephant and a lion, the lion will, now, at least in size, the elephant is, enormous, and the lion is small. That is compared to like our material inclinations, our sinful habits, and all these things. They're like big, like an elephant. Very hard to tame an elephant which is maddened. But the way the lion does it is he corners the elephant and he jumps and he attacks from all different sides. And in that way he subdues the great big elephant. So when we chant Gauranga, when we chant Hare Krishna, then Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu enters our heart. The holy name of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu enters within our heart and corners all of these inclinations that we have, these material desires, madness, envy, illusion, lust, anger, greed, all these enemies of the soul that we have. Bhagavad Gita says that there's two enemies that the soul has in different chapters. In chapter 3, Krishna identifies that the first enemy of the soul is lust. What is this lust? Lust means our desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. Actually, the soul can only enjoy in connection with Krishna because the soul has a direct relationship with Krishna. But when we think, let's put Krishna aside and let me just enjoy my own senses, that is lust. So it's not lust in just the carnal sense. It's lust in the sense that we want to enjoy separately from Krishna. In any way. That's why even when we eat food, that food is first offered to Krishna. It's enjoyed by Krishna. It's prasad. And then in the 6th chapter, Krishna identifies, he identifies that the mind, the uncontrolled mind, bandhuratmatmanas tasya yenatmayavatmana jita. He says that the controlled mind is your best friend, but the uncontrolled mind is your worst enemy. But even between these two things, lust and the mind, he further mentions in the 3rd chapter that lust actually hides within the mind. So it's not so much the mind which is the enemy, it's actually lust. Now that formidable enemy can be overcome by chanting the holy name. So that's another act of mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Another way is that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu empowers his devotees to act on his behalf. There's descriptions in Chaitanya Charitamrita of how vast villages, numerous villages in Bengal, and then as Mahaprabhu traveled to South India, how he transformed all of these people to chant Hare Krishna. It's called Shakti-avesh. What that means is that when Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would be chanting and dancing with his associates, traveling down, and then there'd be a few villagers in the fields, they'll be working, and he'll call out to them, chant Hare Krishna, chant Hari Hari. And on this instruction of Mahaprabhu, these farmers will chant Hari Hari. And by chanting and following Mahaprabhu's instructions, they will become pure devotees. They'll get ecstatic love for Krishna. They'll get Krishna prema. He will invest his potency within these farmers so that these farmers can now act exactly as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these few farmers who chanted Hari Hari, now they'll go to their own villages and they will tell the villagers there, chant Hari Hari. And these villagers will chant Hari Hari. And then the entire village is transformed into Vaishnavas. They all get Krishna prema. So it's like a domino effect. That's how one of the techniques Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to transform vast amounts of souls, individuals, to Krishna consciousness. Another aspect of his, we've got 5 minutes. Another aspect of his mercy is that he has come to give us the highest quality of love of Godhead. Right? Now, one of the things that Srila Prabhupada mentions at the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, he says that you can have different types of relationships with God, with Krishna. It's not something hackneyed, it's not something trite. We're not just submissive servants, of course we are, but that can be expressed in different ways, in a variety of ways. Not only can we be Krishna's servant, but we can be Krishna's friend, we can be Krishna's parents or act in that way, and we can be Krishna's lovers as well. Just like we see in Vrindavan, the gopis, they are Krishna's lovers, intimate lovers. But Mahaprabhu has come to give us that highest pinnacle of relationship that we can have with Krishna. No other incarnation, if you can call Mahaprabhu an incarnation, before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given that facility, that ability to reach that pinnacle of love of Godhead. In the spiritual world, you have Golok Vrindavan, which is the highest planetary system. Below that, you have the Vaikuntha planets. In these Vaikuntha planets, there's no conception of worshipping Lord Vishnu in a loving way, as his lover, or as his parent. Practically all the unlimited numbers of devotees there are just his servants. But in Golok Vrindavan, you can wrestle with Krishna. You can feed Krishna. Right? You can treat Krishna just like your friend, your lover, like that. And one last thing, one important point, is that by remembering Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, difficult things become easy. Right? Just by remembering Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Like we say, Pangur Langayatem Girim, Yat Kripata Mahammade, Shri Guru Dinataram. A blind man can see stars, a lame man can walk over mountains. If we simply remember Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, if we have that faith, by practicing Krishna consciousness, it will increase, then the most difficult things, like I mentioned, lust, the formidable enemy, will become easy to overcome. I'll just finish really quickly with a story. This is a really nice story. Right now, really terrible situation going on in Europe, the war which is happening there. So this is a story that I heard. I don't know if it's a true story, but nevertheless it's inspiring. So there was a soldier, and apparently he was a devotee. He was a devotee. And he was behind enemy lines. And he was by himself, and he was fleeing away from this whole battalion of soldiers which were coming and hunting him down. They were coming with grenades and rifles and you name it. And he was running, trying to avoid him. Finally, he managed to go into a forest area. And there were a lot of caves there. And he thought, what do? I have to hide somewhere. I have to get away from here. They're definitely going to kill me. He goes into a cave. He hides there. And he sees, after some time, these people are coming. These enemy soldiers are coming. And he's looking out of the cave and he's seeing them. They're firing randomly into these caves. They're throwing grenades into these caves. And he's thinking, look, they're going to come into my cave. They're going to kill me. So what does he do? He starts praying to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He starts chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And just at that time, something really amazing happens. There's actually a spider just on the outside of the cave entrance. And as he's chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, this spider starts to weave a web. And within 10-15 minutes, this web practically covers the entrance to the cave. And he's seeing outside, the soldiers are there. They're firing into all the other caves. And finally, a soldier comes close to the cave that he's hiding in. And he looks at the entrance. And he hears him thinking, he hears him saying to his friends, his comrades or whatever, he says, there's no point in firing into this cave because, if anyone was inside this cave, then the spider web would be broken. They just leave that cave alone and they just walk by. So here we see an instance, where a spider web protected the might of a gunfire and, like that. So, but the point is that he had faith and he had taken full shelter of the holy name of Krishna. We don't know how Krishna is going to act. But we should do our duty to, our dharma is to serve Krishna in devotional service. So I just want to finish off by saying that if you don't have a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita, please do get it. We have a book table outside. It's not very expensive. This is the topmost Vaishnava Shastra that our acharyas have said. So we'll finish here. Thank you very much. Gaura Arati is going to start now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai.